1992. Part 1. December 1991 to May 1992. Listen, Paula. I am going to tell you a story, so that when you wake up, you will not feel so lost. The legend of our family begins at the end of the last century, when a robust Basque sailor disembarked on the coast of Chile with his mother's reliquary strung around his neck and his head swimming with plans for greatness. But why start so far back? It is enough to say that those who came after him were a breed of impetuous women and men with sentimental hearts and strong arms fit for hard work. Some few irascible types died frothing at the mouth, although the cause may not have been rage, as evil tongues had it, but rather some local pestilence. The Basques' descendants bought fertile land on the outskirts of the capital, which with time increased in value. They became more refined and constructed lordly mansions with great parks and groves. They wed their daughters to rich young men from established families. They educated their children in rigorous religious schools, and thus over the course of the years, they were integrated into a proud aristocracy of landowners that prevailed for more than a century, until the whirlwind of modern times replaced them with technocrats and businessmen. My grandfather was one of the former, the good old families, but his father died young of an unexplained shotgun wound. The details of what happened that fateful night were never revealed, but it could have been a duel, or revenge, or some accident of love. In any case, his family was left without means, and because he was the oldest, my grandfather had to drop out of school and look for work to support his mother and educate his younger brothers. Much later, when he had become a wealthy man to whom others doffed their hats, he confessed to me that genteel poverty is the worst of all, because it must be concealed. He was always well turned out, in his father's clothes, altered to fit, the collars starched stiff, and suits well pressed to disguise the threadbare cloth. Those years of penury tempered his character. In his credo, life was strife and hard work, and an honorable man should not pass through this world without helping his neighbor. Still young, he already exhibited the concentration and integrity that were his characteristics. He was made of the same hard stone as his ancestors, and, like many of them, had his feet firmly on the ground. Even so, some small part of his soul drifted toward the abyss of dreams, which was what allowed him to fall in love with my grandmother, the youngest of a family of 12, all eccentrically and deliciously bizarre. Like Teresa, who at the end of her life began to sprout the wings of a saint, and at whose death all the roses in the Parque Japonés withered overnight. Or Ambrosio, a dedicated carouser and fornicator, who was known at moments of rare generosity to remove all his clothing in the street and hand it to the poor. I grew up listening to stories about my grandmother's ability to foretell the future, read minds, converse with animals, and move objects with her gaze. Everyone says that once she moved a billiard table across a room, but the only thing I ever saw move in her presence was an insignificant sugar bowl that used to skitter erratically across the table at tea time. These gifts aroused certain misgivings, and many eligible suitors were intimidated by her, despite her charms. My grandfather, however, regarded telepathy and telekinesis as innocent diversions, and in no way a serious obstacle to marriage. The only thing that concerned him was the difference in their ages. My grandmother was much younger than he, and when he first met her, she was still playing with dolls and walking around clutching a grimy little pillow. Because he was so used to seeing her as a young girl, he was unaware of his passion for her until one day she appeared in a long dress and with her hair up, and then the revelation of a love that had been gestating for years threw him into such a fit of shyness that he stopped calling. My grandmother divined his state of mind before he himself was able to undo the tangle of his own feelings, and sent him a letter, the first of many she was to write him at decisive moments in their lives. This was not a perfumed billet doux testing the waters of their relationship, but a brief note penciled on lined paper asking him straight out whether he wanted to marry her.